We've been witnesses in the last few days to remarkable occurrences throughout the world, both in the form of earthquakes and human upheavals to overthrow regimes which have caused a great deal of uncertainty in many parts of the world, and questions as to where's it all leading. And the overthrows of certain governments has been almost unpredicted beforehand. It just happened in the middle of a fine day, to use the expression. And all of these things must bear some message to us, based on the famous principle of the Baal Shem Tov, where the Baal Shem Tov taught us that a Jew must learn a lesson of how to serve Hashem better, and how to go develop in his service of Hashem from everything that he sees and hears in life. So if we hear major events of this sort, then they must come with some message to teach us in our ways of learning Torah and studying and understanding Hashem, and the direction in which Hashem is conducting us and the whole world in light of these events. So I would like to base my talk on the famous principle of the Baal Shem Tov, which he's based on a verse in the Tehillim of the Psalms, chapter 107, speaking at the beginning of that psalm how the Jews were wandering in the desert, and the pasuk says that they were re'evim gan tmimim nafshum behem tisatov, that they were hungry and also thirsty, and that their souls literally wrapped themselves in hunger and thirst. The word tisatov meaning literally to wrap oneself up in the suffering and misery of being hungry and thirsty. So the Baal Shem Tov said that why does the pasuk stress that their soul had trouble, and their soul was in a state of being wrapped with the suffering involved? So the Baal Shem Tov told us that what it really means is that if you're hungry and thirsty, then not that you are physically, it may also be the case on a physical level that you need to take in certain materials into your body. However, the physical world is always guided by the spiritual, according to great Kabbalistic sources. And since your soul is longing for the food in order, according to the Teres Arizal, to take out all the divine sparks which have fallen into the spiritual world due to what we call the falling of the world of confusion, which was a higher state prior to our world and to the worlds above it. We are yearning for these divine sparks that fell, and to return them to their place and to bring an even more elevated revelation. Due to that return, every Jewish soul yearns and looks for these sparks, and they're called nitzutzes, in the physical intake that we make into our body and other things that we come in contact in the physical world, which allow us to elevate these sparks. So nafshom behem tisatov, but that's why they were thirsty and hungry, or hungry and thirsty, and that's why it is that on all occasions when you are hungry and thirsty, your soul is looking and yearning for this divine service of the elevation of the sparks, which according to the Holy Arizal, that is the whole purpose of our being in the world, particularly at the time of the exile. So what I'd like to suggest is that similar to what the Talmud says in Masechta Megillah, which is an up-and-coming topical tractate, coming as we are near to Purim, the Gemara says at the beginning of Masechta Megillah, in reference to a verse in Daniel, that Daniel, being as he was a Novi, was together with a group of people, and they saw, or rather Daniel saw, a great vision a great prophetic vision, which also has much relation to the coming of Moshiach and to the whole Messianic period. We're not able to go into that due to our lack of time. And it's written in the verse clearly that only Daniel, he saw the actual vision, and all the other people that were with him did not see the vision. However, it's written that great fear fell upon them, and they fell down and on their faces due to the fact that they had experienced the great awe of this vision, even though they didn't see it. And so the Gemara says there in the Sekta Megillah that even though they didn't see it bodily, but their mazal saw it. And mazal doesn't mean just luck or fortune. It means the highest source of their soul in the spiritual world, how it is on a level prior to its coming into the body, and then it's able to view things and see things that the body, the limitations of the body don't allow us here in this world to see. So that neshama, mazal of the neshama has a way of connecting with the neshama in the body in certain vivid moments or occurrences. So at that moment when they saw this, Daniel, saw this amazing vision, it somehow or another affected their mazal and caused them this tremendous reaction, even though they themselves didn't actually see and were not actually aware of the tremendous significance of this vision that Daniel had seen. So we can suggest that what's going on in the world, and this is a message which was given to us by the Lubavitcher Rebbe several times, not so many years ago, in reference to earthquakes, that earthquakes are a genuine sign of the coming of Moshiach and the beginning of the Messianic era, and thereby, as it were, heralding and bringing a forerunner message to the whole Messianic period. So based on that principle, what we could suggest is that it's happening both amongst the peoples of the world and even deeper, even amongst the world as an entity, as a planet, as an entity, a crust of Earth over the world, that what is happening, particularly based on the principle of the Rambam, that all the planets have a certain knowledge which is beyond our knowledge. We have no ability to be aware of how they're aware of things, but they have a very high awareness, and they actually are involved in serving their Creator and other implications of that knowledge. And so therefore we can suggest that the world shudders and moves in impatience to yearn towards a higher state. That's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe implied in his teaching, and therefore things move and are affected in what could be a very severe way by an earthquake, but the purpose of that is only to, as we might say, move the human race into some deep soul searching and thinking as to what is the purpose of the earth and where are we going and where are we heading. And we can suggest that many of these peoples overthrowing their governments at this particular stage yearning for something better, in the way that those people who with Daniel didn't know what they were experiencing, but they knew that something was moving their bodies and their souls due to the fact that there was a tremendous experience taking place, just that they weren't actual witnesses of it. So, and on that basis, we could suggest that the world is in a restlessness and a yearning for a new state of betterness, of a new state between humans, and eventually that great state which will be at the time of the kingly rule of the King Moshiach, in which he will rule. And as the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, the Gemara tells us that he will judge us almost by smelling, by the use of what's called rayach. In Hebrew, he will know the inner secrets of all human beings. Now that leads us to a brief mention of this week's portion, which is read in the synagogue, in the Jewish synagogue, and the portion of the week, as it's called, of the Torah, of the Pentateuch, in which Moshe Rabbeinu assembled all of the Jewish people at that time, which is a tremendous feat of its own, to assemble and address them all in a tremendously high and unified way, which will be typical of the form of communication that Melech HaMashiach will form with all of us people who will be his subjects, as it were. And he told them, first of all, the mitzvah of Shabbos. He mentioned, albeit only a certain detail of the mitzvah of Shabbat, he did mention the whole concept of the 7 days of work and the Shabbos. And then he went on to give a practical commandment to the Jewish people in reference to the building of the sanctuary in the desert at that time, which was the beginning of the building of the ultimate temple in Jerusalem, and it was a forerunner, and there are many, many similar connections between the two. The implication being that first of all we have to elevate and go up to a state of Moshiach, what that is Shabbos. Shabbos-i u'manucha l'chayei lomim. Then we come back down into the practical world and we make it a better place. We make it a sanctuary which has an oren, a ark, and it has a menorah which lights up the world through the Jewish neshamas learning Torah. And that is what, God willing, will soon be very, very swiftly in our days.